So welcome everyone. We are talking today about boundaries. So what are boundaries? Boundaries are rules that keep us safe. According to the dictionary, a boundary is a line or a plane indicating the limit or extent of something. I invite you now to think back for a moment. How are boundaries set in your home? Did your parents know how to set healthy boundaries? Was maybe your mom or your dad more of a friend? Did they have anger issues and they didn't know how to control it? Most of us did not know how to set healthy boundaries, and it's because we were never taught how. Neither were our parents. So was someone in your life overgiving? Were your parents people pleasers? How about you? How are you with boundaries? Have you had to learn your own boundaries? And maybe you don't even know what boundaries 100% are yet of how to even set a healthy boundary. And that's okay. You'll learn that here in this module. So I invite you now to pause this course right now and journal about it. What are some boundaries you've noticed that maybe have been crossed? So an example would be, let's say if somebody said something rude to you and you didn't know how to say something back. Anytime that we feel kind of like, oh, like I don't feel they should have done that or said that, that's a boundary that's been crossed. Kind of like when we go into a yoga class and everyone knows to be quiet, gently go in the room, the yoga room, get your mat, roll it out and just lay there and just enjoy your own. And if you're going to talk, speak quietly. You don't go running in and I'm excited for yoga. It's not a high energy, or that's the boundary. That's the rule. It's a rule in place to keep us safe, to know. So like as in the picture here, I have kind of a fence. It's kind of a broken down fence, but that's the boundary of here's this guy's property, here's that guy's property. And that's why we have the boundaries. You can create the wall and just say no, right? So pause this course. What are the boundaries that you know about? How are your family boundaries? Were your parents people pleasers? Are you a people pleaser? And how do you set boundaries in your home now? So go do that, pause this, and then come back when you're done. So next, we're going to move on to how to set healthy boundaries. Now that you've had a chance to review your childhood and life around boundaries, did you notice something? Did you learn a few things about yourself and your family? Most empaths give so much because they care so much. We have such big hearts, but this can lead to overgiving and people pleasing as well. Under receiving, struggling with boundaries, and people pleasing. So how do you set a healthy boundary? Each situation will be different and each person will receive the boundary differently. Normally, if someone is overstepping a boundary and you cut them off or put them in their place, they may not be too happy. They probably will not be happy at the beginning, but this is about you and not about them. It's about your health. So normally when people have overstepped a boundary and put the boundary up, they'll get offended. They might get annoyed. They might project things onto you because they've been really enjoying overstepping their boundary. And now that you've put them in their place, maybe that was a form of control for them and maybe they don't have that anymore, right? So every situation is different. To set a boundary, you will tell the person that they can no longer treat you the way they have been, speak to you in that manner, or you may even block them. So every situation will be different. If it's somebody at work doing something to you or at home, you'll have to just feel it out of how can I address this? You'll know in your compass, in your inner compass, this doesn't feel 100% good for me. I don't like this. Like if somebody's speaking to you in a rude voice or tone or calling you names, you can put up your hand and just say, you cannot speak to me this way, and walk away and like let them cool off and they can figure it out. Or if you want to handle it differently, that's perfectly fine too, right? So how to set a healthy boundary. You can tell the person if they continue to blank, then blank will occur. Examples, your mother-in-law comes over and completely reorganizes your kitchen while you're at work. You come home to see that nothing is where it was left before. And she said she did this to help you guys. She feels she had done nothing wrong and she's excited and happy about her work. What do? So this lady has clearly overstepped. This is not her house. She should not be, you didn't ask her. And maybe she does this all the time, things like this all the time. So it's just another boundary she has crossed. So you can politely thank her for being so thoughtful and taking the time out of her day to do this, but this isn't her home. You didn't ask her to do this, and now you don't know where anything is. So she can either put everything back where it is or where it was, sorry, or ask next time. Is there anything else that you would add into this situation? How would you handle it if this was you and your mother-in-law or a father-in-law or a sister or anybody else? Let's say they come into your home and rearrange all of your stuff. You would definitely feel the boundary being crossed. So she may get mad, as she may have truly felt she was helping you, but it's not her home. She didn't ask, and she didn't ask and you didn't ask her to do this. The boundary has been crossed. Stand firm. And if you need, ask your guides to help you. So you can actually physically put out your hand like, you're not allowed to do this, but that might be a bit aggressive. So maybe just kindly say, thank you. I appreciate it, but this isn't going to work for us. Next time, please ask me. And I didn't want this. So, you know. So here's another example. This man in the picture has a horrible boss that treats him poorly. He forces him to work late, says mean things to him, undervalues him, and overworks him. The boss now comes to ask him to add more work to his plate. What can this man do? So the man can say something like, sure, I can add this to my day, but I will need you to come help me prioritize it, like prioritize my day, as I have a full day already, and I'm not sure where you'd like me to fit this in. So the boss will then see that that person has a full day and cannot add more to the workload, to the list. The boss can either give the work to someone else or leave it for another day, or maybe the boss wants to do it himself or herself. When you speak your truth and set a boundary, you will feel empowered and aligned with your true self. So be sure to practice setting healthy boundaries at work, home, with friends and family. So here's another example. If you're with some friends and remember that joke, right? That joke that we were discussing about earlier, and they made that joke and you were the joke. You can tell them or the person that you didn't appreciate it. So maybe if you look at the picture, maybe they made a joke about him and he's like, oh, I don't like that. Maybe they're brother and sisters and they're siblings, right? It doesn't matter who or what the case is. If somebody is saying a joke to you that doesn't feel like a joke, it doesn't feel good, definitely speak up, because the more you can speak up and speak your truth, then the easier it'll become. It is hard and it is scary sometimes in the moment, but ask for power, ask for courage, speak your truth from your guides and they'll help you. So if they continue to talk to you in that manner, you will no longer hang out with them if they are friends, or be their friend anymore, depending how far you want to take this. So if they're flaky friends, fake friends, maybe you don't want to be friends with these people anymore. We've called in your soul tribe, so you don't need those kinds of people anymore. Friends are meant to lift each other up and be there for one another. If you feel like a friend is belittling you, speak up and tell them it's not okay. When you set the boundary, breathe and allow them to feel whatever comes to the surface. If this is a family member that is treating you poorly, tell them they may not speak to you in that way. And until they can show you respect, you will not converse with them or be around them. So I've had to do this before. I've had to cut off a family member, and I honestly don't even think that person noticed. It was for my own well-being. I had to block them from Facebook a few years ago and not talk to them, but it was my own healing that I needed to do. And yeah, so you could either tell them that you're doing this, or it's up to you how you want to handle it. So you may change any of the boundaries so they align with you and your life, and change a boundary at any time too if you notice that it's still being crossed,